grief, sadness, melancholy, as they used to say in old days. They're all function of lung intestine function circle, as we call it in Colourpuncture, lung intestine meridians in Chinese medicine. I would say in this situation, even so, I'm totally with you. Orange is a happy color. And orange is something that we do when a person is a bit down, and orange is indicated for depression, for tiredness, for many, many things. I would start here definitely with something different. I would start with two things. So first of all, I would do just classic letting go treatment. Letting go treatment mainly is done in red with some green. And when I'm talking about letting go package, this is something that I created myself. I basically took everything which related to lung intestine we have in Colourpuncture, and I do it in one go for somebody who just experienced loss or who is going through a very difficult period of time, which somehow, probably this period of time triggered this sort of sense of unintegrated loss in the past. So on the simple level, you can think of lung intestine preparation treatment. When you do stomach 25, oxidation point in between, lung 5, this treatment, then you do counterpart on the back. You can do letting go point at the end of Achilles tendon, generally from lung intestine, depending on of your training, because it does differ. I would definitely do it as a first step. We need to clean the space, remove this excessive attachment, and we need to get things moving. And we are doing it with this letting go treatment. We get the lungs into better, healthier state. And we tapping into this principle of lung intestine, which is transcendence, transparency, transportation. If you think about tissue of lungs and function of large intestine. Also, I would support if person has a side, and normally people with strong metal, because it's a classic metal in acupuncture, they do have this creative side. Now, people with classic metal in their sort of physiology makeup, they are people who can take some vague idea out of thin air, transcend it through themselves, and give it out to other people in shape and with some creation. So those are very, very creative people. So they are operating on this level. And when this creative function is actually blocked, this is when often people get this attachment and letting go problem. So I would support this creativity principle by counseling them on practical means how they can address this, because this will take care of lung intestine. Then what I would do spinal stroke. Nice and simple spinal stroke, classic treatment, we all know it, even though this relates to kidney meridians. This is kidney bladder treatment. What it does, it strokes the spine. Spine is the soul axis. So this treatment helps us to stand on our own 2 feet on the earth, to receive appropriate input of information and energy from cosmos, to get it all through our body, and to stand on our own 2 feet in all possible sense. And in fact, spinal stroke is something that you can consider for anyone who's going through any change at all. Child starting school, child leaving home for university, different stage of life and so on. I found it's extremely supportive, nourishing, and it can do a lot. And as a third stage, yes, I would do orange. I wouldn't do orange on lung meridian. I would do something really, really simple, because I found that with orange for joy and motivation, you really need to go either with classic point for hypothalamus pituitary, because very often they need to address this endocrine insufficiency, which is often at the very background of everything else, as we know from Colourpuncture. So I would do hypothalamus point, pituitary. I would also do something really simple, such as zone of power in orange. Beautiful zone of power, joy zone. And this is where your exagetic oil comes up. I found that exagetic oil, which is now called oil relax. So oil relax on the zone of joy is really, really beautiful, because if you're thinking about this little zone, in Colourpuncture, we treat it as a zone. It's like an ellipse, and you can stroke around the ellipse, you can feel it in, you can do whatever you want. You can do figure eight on the ellipse, you can do bilateral, by the way. But if you look at this area carefully, so what we have heart, lung, and pericardium points. Those are major points for processing things, for moving things, and for joy of the heart, and for unburdening, helping to transcend the sadness. So just by doing those two things, you can achieve a lot. And if that doesn't work, I would go for soul line. This is absolutely ultimate, beautiful application of orange. But I would not dismiss, even if the origin is purely psychological, as it might seem, in a case of a lost of a dog, then still different people react different to different things. And if there is an extreme grief or extreme attachment, we are still talking about this language intestine function first, and endocrine insufficiency second, or other way around. So, for example, something like triangular fillings, do26, stomach 1, point in between, in spectral colors. If they are in acute distress, then you do it in soul spirit colors. If you do it to build up their strength and the capacity of endocrine system, then you do it on a long-term basis in spectral colors. Something very, very simple they need, very, very simple to start with. Because it's quite hard to judge. Sometimes people present with what is situational depression, anxiety, whatever. And then when you dig deeper, there is a history of some underlying insufficiency and vice versa. So we never can completely judge what is going on for this person. But also I would listen to what they say, because sometimes people literally say, this is a real case, I want my dead relative back. That's what I want. And then obviously you're presented with an interesting situation. You cannot bring them back from that, but you can really help them with all this strategy, starting with letting go treatment, to get to the stage when they are actually able to fully integrate it. After this period of treatment, they came to a situation where there is some flow to it. So their language changes. The way they actually talk, the words they use, I would pay attention to the words they use, because this is more indicative. Because sometimes people just put labels on themselves, like, I am a depression, I am anxiety. And they're so convinced because somebody told them so, they decided so, that even though they receive a lot of healing and there's in the sensitive point where they can go 50-50, they can go and reattach themselves back to their old condition, or they can reinforce a new choice. If their label is too strong, they can actually choose this. So your job obviously is to counsel them through the process as well, on how important it is to actually have the aim. So one of the beautiful things in the I think this is the very first version of Colourpuncture sort of questionnaire medical history form, like, what is your goal for this treatment? What would you like to achieve? And very often people say, like, I just want to get rid of this. I said, okay. So for example, you have headaches, you have chronic headaches, we got rid of headaches. What change, what will it give you? And then people say, oh, I don't know. And very often what happens, they got rid of this, and then something else was underlying that. But if you are firmly keeping your goal in mind, something juicier than just health. And by saying that, as somebody who suffered a lot from physical problems, I am not diminishing in the slightest our physical suffering in the amount and the like scope and magnitude can take. But there is physical health, I came to believe, is only part of something much bigger, much, much bigger. So as you rightly point out, our soul, which is sum total of our feelings, emotions, attitudes, thoughts, and everything else, is basically on the top of it, and it can massively regulate the body both ways.